Good morning to everyone here and all around the world, ships at sea, up in the sky, wherever you're watching from. Good morning. Morning, a day not without its... Chris, Chris, I feel your pain. 10 minutes ago, there was no show. My internet went out. I was literally trying to send a photograph from my phone here to my computer there. Wouldn't work. Had to shut the whole lot down, get started again, just in time for you to arrive. But good morning, Chris. Dan Cullen is here. He was already here at some time after dawn, 6:52. He was here originally. Good morning. How are you doing? Gary Muirhead is here and has a question. How's the new jobs going, Dan and Jim? Yeah, two of our members in new jobs, which oddly enough is kind of the subject of my morning monologue today. I wouldn't say you've inspired it. No, I tell a lie. You have inspired it. I'll tell you more about that when we get there. Mark Whiting is here as well. Morning, Mark. Yeah, I've mentioned Dan, I've mentioned Jim, I've mentioned Chris, I've mentioned Gary. Yep, that's all present and correct there. Loads of people. Mitchell Poindexter over on Instagram, one of many. Got a good show for you today, including something, just a little bit out of the ordinary, which I will get to in just a moment. Also had a message overnight from, you remember we did that interview? I say interview. We had a chat with a guy called Kevin Soller, who operates a Menzie muck machine up in the mountains above Colorado. Sent me a message last night, planning to meet up in ConExpo. So looking forward to that. It might actually be the first of a new series I have in mind. Jim is saying, sound so far on my second machine so far. Neither have been Hitachi's though, but I'll be doing a review of this JCB 145. Hopefully positive, and apparently Dan is enjoying it as well. So far, so good. All good. As I say, we've got one extra piece for today, so I am going to crack off. Better day today of weather. Yeah, I must admit, went to bed last night, took my mother-in-law home late last night. Still raining. Woke up this morning expecting more of the same. Actually quite nice out there. Not going to be putting the shorts on anytime soon, but it looks quite nice. Anyway, as I said, we've got loads to get through, including an additional thing today, which we'll get to immediately. So without further ado, let me roll the intro and get this show on the road. Dan has just said, this 220X is by far a better machine. Good, glad to hear it. Anywho, people, it is Wednesday, the 28th of January. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming, the authentic voice of the global demolition industry. In today's show, we're going to be introducing, this is an absolute exclusive for this show, we're introducing the Wrubber Wrecker. Yeah, look out for that. Hitachi goes large with its ultra-short range of excavators. Liebherr's T264 tracks are tackling the Pilbara down in Australia. Topcon's race to precision paving, and Rhinoceros, not the animal, the company, begins its charge towards ConExpo in our latest Voyage to Vegas. Plus, in today's edition of the Morning Monologue, too many hoops. That's what we're calling it, and it will all become clear when we get there. What do we got here? Ken Hatcher has just arrived. Good morning, Ken. How are you doing, my friend? Let me see if your button's working today. Seems to be. Yeah, you've got your star. That's good to see. Jim is saying I was on the 245 XR before. I've already reviewed that model before. Dan says, doubt Hitachi would compete in my book. It's weird, isn't it? It is. Listen, I horses for courses and all that, and I realise some people like one thing and don't like another. I love West Ham and I can't bear Spurs. That's it. See, there's no good reason for it, apart from the fact that West Ham obviously are marvellous and Spurs are awful. But, it looks like the beard is going through the down and out look. Looks like I've been on the booze for days without a shave. Well, Gary, thank you so much for that. It is. Yeah, I hate this bit. I do hate this bit. But give it another week or so, and when it fills in the sides and stuff like that, yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. That's if my wife doesn't shave it off while I'm asleep, which is a very real possibility. I've promised you something new and exclusive. New and exclusive comes after this. Yeah, now I was planning to get Demolition on the job for this, but she wasn't available. So I've handed the whole thing over to a lady called Kat. A lady called Kat at Spoof News. Enjoy.
Engineers in America are tackling the environmental impact of demolition in a surprising way by reimagining the traditional wrecking ball. A prototype of what the designers are calling the Wrubber Wrecker has successfully completed its first round of on-site trials, and a patent is pending on the supersized wrecking ball that is made entirely from reclaimed rubber. According to the team behind the project, the Wrubber Wrecker has numerous key environmental advantages over the traditional steel ball of old. The Wrubber Wrecker offers huge fuel consumption savings, says Jackson Steele of the design team. The operator uses fuel to swing the ball, and then he can just switch his machine off. That thing will keep on bouncing for the rest of the day. While the design team admits that the Wrubber Wrecker has very little impact upon the actual building, they believe that it is perfect for the modern demolition workplace. The Wrubber Wrecker won't inflict a great deal of damage upon the building, but demolition is not a sprint, it's a marathon. That thing will just keep pounding away, day and night, until something gives. Meanwhile, the operator is free to be getting on with something else. Jackson Steele also says that the Wrubber Wrecker helps reduce noise emissions. The old steel wrecking ball was very loud. The Wrubber Wrecker just makes a pleasing boing sound. It's actually quite soothing. The design team says that the Wrubber Wrecker has one other key environmental advantage. It is made entirely from recycled golf balls dredged from water hazards on golf courses across the US. The Wrubber Wrecker is 100% sustainable because, as we have discovered, there are thousands of golf balls being shanked into lakes and ponds each day, they report. And, better still, reports of fish concussions are down 74% since trials began. The team behind Wrubber Wrecker say that once they have completed the patent application, the wrecking ball of the future will go on sale worldwide through a dealer network. Our ideal dealer will have an extensive knowledge of the demolition industry and have a demonstrable commitment to the environment, Steele concludes. And if they're located close to a golf course, that would be very handy too.
You don't think that's real? Obviously, I'm on a wind-up. It just struck me as amusing yesterday afternoon, and thanks to the power of AI, we were able to put that together. I am actually planning to do some more of those, primarily for social media, because, you know, that's the sort of thing that social media gets off on. What I would ask is we're going to make that video live. I've just seen Dan's comment. Fish concussion. Yeah, I must admit, made me laugh when I wrote that. Yes, we're going to make that live over on our YouTube channel. I will be dropping a link to it in our WhatsApp group. Do me a favor, if you get 2 seconds, can you like it or share it? I'd quite like. I'm planning to do a series called Spoof News. It won't always be Cat Tractor. That should have been your first clue. It won't always be her presenting, but I do want to do a few more of these, just to lighten the mood a little bit, because, you know, frankly, everything else I talk about here is basically shit. That would never work. That was never the point. She lost me at the point when she said, keeps pounding away all night. Yeah, I must admit that I did have my tongue firmly in my cheek when I started to write that. How can they tell how they know a fish has concussion? Yeah, they do look. Fish generally just look dazed, don't they? Yeah, it would be hard to tell, but yeah, sorry to start in such a frivolous manner. We're going to get on with the proper show right now. chat. Bear with me. Dan says, the pounding all night had me. I can manage 2 to 4 hours max, and I'm knackered. Good Lord, sir. Good Lord. That's virtually tantric. I'm not even going down that road. Let's go and have a look at the latest from Hitachi, which is a kind of a weird contradiction. It's a large machine, but it's ultra short. It'll make sense when you see it.
My name is Burak, and I would like to introduce you to Hitachi's new ZX375 USLC-7, the largest machine in our ultra-short tail range with exceptional lifting capacities, designed to put you in control. If you're a business owner, we have considered the challenges you face, and for operators, we have focused on your experience in the cab. So, let's start by highlighting how the latest ZX-7 machine can help you to take control of your business.
You can increase profits by working on a wider range of projects thanks to the versatility of the ZX375 USLC-7. Its short tail swing radius allows it to work efficiently and safely in confined areas. And it has the best-in-class lifting capabilities, thanks to its superior stability and advanced hydraulics. For example, you can lift up to 12.7 tons at 6 meters reach, which is ideal for pipe laying or urban construction sites. With the attachment support system, you can easily change attachments on the 8-inch LCD monitor. Your profit will also increase thanks to the impressive fuel economy of the Stage 5 compliant engine. Fuel efficiency is achieved by the unique Trias hydraulic system. And operators can control fuel savings even more following the eco-gauge indications. Moving into the cab, let's explore how you can take control of your comfort. As you can see, it's the perfect working environment. The standard ZX-7 cab has been adapted to provide more space. It offers the ultimate in quality with a temperature-adjustable storage system and some of the lowest noise and vibration levels in the market. Easy operation comes from the ergonomic design of the console and switches, and convenient access to controls. So how does the ZX375 USLC-7 put you in control of your safety? By ensuring a high level of visibility, the cab offers a superior view of the job site to protect you and the machine from potential hazards. Visibility is boosted by the aerial angle camera system, which gives you an exceptional 270-degree bird's-eye view. For enhanced visibility, ZX-7 excavators are equipped with LED work lights and other safety-conscious features, so you can work more confidently and productively, even in challenging conditions. The ZX375 USLC-7 is built to last, which means that you're in control of your expenditure on repairs, service and maintenance. Uptime is maximized by easy maintenance and cleaning, saving you time and money. You can access a range of after-sales services and tools to help you feel in total control of your machine and workload. Stay on top of your projects with Owner's Site and ConSite, two remote monitoring systems that are part of global e-service. Manage your machine's performance and track its location using the ConSite Pocket app. And as your business grows, you can extend your fleet to meet demand through the Hitachi Premium Rental Program.
With the new ZX375 USLC-7 excavator, you can create your ideal environment in the cab, create your business's success story with improved profit, and work in partnership with Hitachi to create your vision.
Dan is saying, looks nice, but the cab's too small. All zero-tail Hitachi cabs are the same, he says. Gary Muirhead, fantastic to see. Accessible doors in the blast. In the blast? Is that right? Dan saying, can't see that. 12-ton at full reach. Listen, I think it looks a splendid machine. I realise we have a bit of a difference of opinion when it comes to Hitachi in the chat. Hopefully, we'll be a bit more united around the Liebherr T264, the monster mining truck we're about to show you after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Yeah, I've seen the Liebherr T264 up close on a number of occasions at MineExpo, at Bauma. Yet to see one in action. So I'm going to make do with this.
Mining iron ore in the Pilbara's hard, yeah. It's a harsh environment. We're 50 degrees plus in summer. It gets cold in winter. Materials abrasive. The roads take their toll on the equipment, but the trucks have performed. So we can't ask any more than the product than that.
Liebherr T264 performance, particularly with regard to payload delivery, has been very reliable throughout this project. What we're looking for in our machinery is that it can withstand those extremes of temperature, presence of dust, wet weather conditions, as well as hauling some serious dirt.
Well, it's a challenging site. T264s have provided certainly an efficient outcome and also a product that is very much favoured by the operator from a comfort level.
I love operating the Liebherr trucks, nice and smooth over the pit floors and on the road. The cabs are more comfortable than other trucks. The Liebherrs are a lot more stable over rocky floors, bumpy floors, which provides more comfort to us being sitting down 12 hours a day.
We have on-site support from Liebherr 7 days a week. The support from Perth has been phenomenal. The availability for the machines has been around 88%, which is what our target is for the business. So they perform really well.
This site in particular, supporting these, we've just integrated 4 more trucks coming to site. 3 of them have been repowered with the Liebherr engine, the D98. They're literally just getting commissioned as we speak, and they'll be heading out to work, and it's quite an exciting time.
Thyssen and Liebherr have a long-term relationship globally, and certainly we see that strength and presence now within the western region of Australia. We certainly see an opportunity to build on that well into the future.
Right, just to clarify, we had this from Gary, who said, fantastic to see accessible doors in the blast. What he actually meant was back ballast. That's what he meant. Dan Cullen saying, nice truck. Now, I have to tip my hat at our friend Chris Ford. Going back to our discussions of fish concussion, he says, Dan, if a fish has concussion, it'll be dazed and confused. Dazed and confused, yeah. Knocked off its perch, having a bleak outlook. I could go on, but dazed and confused. Well done, sir. Well done indeed. We've got more. Yeah, we're talking sort of road paving, GPS, motor racing. Stick around.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, now I'm delighted to say that one of the many companies that we're going to be working with while we're in Las Vegas is the mighty Topcon. Yeah, we're working with Topcon. We worked with them at last ConExpo, actually, and bizarrely, I wonder what they're thinking. They've invited us back. So I've been dredging through the archives. We did actually interview at the last ConExpo a motor racing driver, the Topcon sponsor. They've got very, very close links with the motor racing circuit. And one of the things that makes it all work is the need for absolute precision, perfection on racetracks to make sure that the cars all run to the maximum of their capabilities. They've got a film about it. looks like this.
It starts with a single moment where position, movement, and time intersect, where accuracy matters, and there is no margin for error. Precision becomes the differentiator. In motorsports, the line between winning and losing is measured in millimeters. Every corner, every point, every adjustment, calculated to perfection. This same standard drives Topcon. For decades, we've led the industry with precision. From the pit lane to production lines, from race circuits to city streets. We know success doesn't happen by chance. It's earned through real-time data, advanced automation, and the drive for perfection. Every decision sharper, every movement smarter, every point measured. In the office, on the field, across cities and continents. Topcon drives performance with one unshakable truth. Precision isn't just what we do, it's who we are. Topcon, since precision exists.
Yeah, looking forward to catching up with the fine folks at Topcon over at ConExpo. And speaking of ConExpo, I'll get to that in just a moment. But Dan says, I'm actually surprised more equipment manufacturers' technology don't sponsor football rally fields. There is quite a bit in the rally field of things, although rallying, I think, tends to be a bit more, certainly this side of the pond, it tends to be a bit more Scandinavian. And I know some of the Scandinavian manufacturers are involved in that, Volvo being the most obvious of all of them. But there is a bit of that. But yeah, I'd love to see a bit more of that. Across America and across the world right now, there are companies packing up low loaders and trucks, preparing to send their equipment and their people over to Las Vegas ahead of ConExpo, which is now just over 4 weeks away. It's getting very, very close. Key among those, should I say, is a company called Rhinoceros. They're packing their bags as we speak. Yeah, looking forward to catching up with those while I'm there as well. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. Apologies for the spoof news and fish concussion distractions. It amused me. I thought it might amuse you. I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. I hope to see you going very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, I'll be back immediately after this. And if you've ever... I'm sure we all have. If you've ever started a new job within the field of demolition and construction, the morning monologue today is for you. Starting a new job on a new site or with a new company can be stressful. That new job will place you in an unfamiliar environment with people you don't necessarily know. You may question your skills, whether they actually match the demands of this specific job. There's a pressure to perform and a pressure to fit in. But in the modern demolition and construction workforce, new jobs, new employers, and new sites are a challenge to be overcome with such regularity that workers begin to form a protective layer. And frankly, they need one, because this is purely where their challenges begin. First, the worker must endure the pick a card, any card, don't show it to the audience rigmarole of a competence card authentication. Let me do that again. First, the worker must endure the pick a card, any card, don't show it to the audience rigmarole of competence card authentication. You might think that this far into our decades-long journey down the road to competence card compliance, the brandishing of a current card would be enough, but oh no. There then comes the question about what colour it is and which provider issued it. On some sites, even that might not be sufficient. In fact, despite holding what they were sold as a universally recognised card, workers may still be required to prove that they can do precisely what it says on the card that they can do. Kind of makes you wonder about the validity and the veracity of the cards, doesn't it? No sooner has the new worker stuffed his apparently worthless competence card back into his wallet, he or she is required to sit through an induction that might last anywhere from half an hour to an entire day, and it might also include a drug and alcohol test. Now, having been told either by an agency or directly by the employer themselves that this job was available, you'd think they might have taken 4 or 5 seconds to clarify PPE requirements. But all too often, that small matter is overlooked. You arrive, fully kitted out, all in yellow, only to be told this is an orange-only site. You've been wearing the same site boots for the past 3 years on multiple jobs in demolition, construction, waste, quarrying. But on this new site, they aren't considered regulation. You can't start until you have the right boots, and the site has none in stock. Even though the latest regulations require employers to provide PPE, even to agency and temporary workers, it remains a stumbling block, another obstacle to actually starting work on time. Now, as an experienced machine operator, you know precisely how you like things set up for maximum productivity and safety and for the minimum possible fuel consumption. But on this new site, you find yourself working with a supervisor who knows better, or at least he thinks he does, even though he's never actually operated a machine in his life. Despite that, he makes it very clear that it's going to be his way or the highway. Now, all of this assumes that the job itself is actually real and that by the time you've travelled across the country, your presence is still required, because that's not always the case. A friend of mine was offered a job not far from Didcot just this week. He arrived early in order to make a good first impression, only to be told the vacancy had already been filled. And the reason that this is the reason for this is as preposterous as it is frustrating. Apparently, the site manager had been to the hospital where he'd had drops placed in his eyes. As a result, he couldn't see his phone. Now, as a member of the diabetic club, I'm given those drops twice a year, and yes, they do impair vision. I certainly wouldn't drive while waiting for the effects to subside. But never have I been rendered blind. I can still find my phone. Even though my vision is blurred, I can still see the screen clearly enough to call my wife for a lift home. I can even watch Instagram videos while I wait, although they are a bit fuzzy. But the excuse isn't the issue. The issue is that this isn't a one-off. It's not unique. It's not made up. This is regular, frequent even. Ever since the industry adopted the self-employed agency model, leaving workers and equipment operators high and dry has become the norm. Expected, inevitable. The biggest problem, of course, is that even experienced workers are jumping through multiple hoops merely to do the very thing they've trained for, the thing they're good at, the thing for which they're paid. In an industry in which we repeatedly tell ourselves that time is money, just how much time, effort, and resources are we wasting each day, each week, and each year through these gross and wholly avoidable inefficiencies? And the remarkable thing about all of this is that so much of this could be solved with nothing more complicated than a checklist. Is the job definitely available? Does the new starter have the right card for the job? Does it come from the right provider? Do they have the right colour PPE and a pair of boots that satisfy the eagle-eyed site supervisor? If you can put a tick against all of those, surely that makes life a whole lot easier. As I said at the outset, starting on a new site with a new team is stressful enough. So why do we continually insist on making it even harder still? There you are. Dan Cullen, you are my inspiration, sir. You are my you are my muse. What do we got? Dan says, have many site inductions, 15 minutes, as they want you on site as soon as possible. I realise this is go back to what I was saying earlier, it's a very much a horses for courses thing. I think if you're working in demolition, maybe you want to devote a little bit more. But if you're working in, I don't know, house building or something like that, your new operator is just going to be digging footings, something that his little card proves that he's been doing for the last 20 years. Do we really need a half-day induction? Do we really need a full-day induction? I would question that. Yeah, couldn't make it up. Dan says, the same guy rang me yesterday and this morning asking me, can I come to Didcot? What a numpty. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, Dan, I suspect that you are like me. You only cross me once. That's it. That's me, game over. I've had companies that have advertised with me and either not paid or been very slow to pay. They're done. That's it. I'm not going back cap in hand. They can phone me up, they can offer me sponsorship deals and all that. Not interested. There is a company now working up near Didcot that has now basically written Dan off as a potential body in a machine. And it happens all the time. All the time. And as I say, you would think, I mean, let's start with the cars. Hang on a minute. Let's take you out, same induction, show us your cards, sign this, sign that, and get out there. Yeah. Now, really and truly, I've got no problem with a site induction. I've been through plenty of them myself. I've got no problem with them at all. But you would think your little card is kind of partial induction anyway. Your card supposedly proves that you can drive a machine safely and efficiently. You as I say, you have a bit of plastic that proves it. Okay, the induction might include specific safety requirements for this particular site or this particular project, which I fully understand. But surely you should be 2/3, 3/4, 7/8 of the way there just by having that piece of plastic. I'm not a machine operator. Don't profess to be. But if I went somewhere and said, I need to drive a car, there's a perfect example. If I want to hire a car here or overseas, I show them my driving license, and that driving license says, yeah, he's good to go. Nobody from Hertz or Avis is asking me to go out into the parking lot and drive around for half an hour to prove that my driving license is kosher. It's a piece of plastic that says he's okay. This fella might look a bit weird, but he's okay. He can drive a car. Why is that not the same? The PPE thing, and again, I mean, I do hold agencies in some contempt over this anyway. We need you to be in this instance, just outside Didcot for whatever the job is. Okay. What's the rate of pay? Yep, that's fine. Who's the company? Yep, that's fine. Okay. What about PPE? Orange or yellow? What about site boots? No rigger boots. It's not hard. It's not. I mean, bearing in mind that they are actually taking a bit of the money between the people paying the wages and the people earning the wages. They're taking their cut out the middle. You would think that maybe they could just ask one or two additional questions to make sure that you don't travel halfway across the country to be told, no, bugger off home. You'd think, right? I've done that one. Jim says, I was very surprised this new lot didn't do drink and drug tests as all of us, about a dozen people, when we were inducted. As I say, some do, some don't. But even that, has anyone ever actually arrived for a job and been told, actually part of your induction is going to be a drink and drugs test? Now, they are supposed to be random. They are supposed to be a surprise so that you can't be prepared for them. And I fully appreciate that. But have you ever been warned in advance? In which case, what is the agency doing exactly to earn their keep? Yes, I'm cross me once. Yeah, absolutely. Me to come, it won't work. But also, there's a lot of guys bullshit people to get a job. Yeah. But again, is that not part of the deal here? I mean, for one thing, I think that bullshit cuts both ways. I mean, I do think there's a lot of agencies out there advertising jobs that don't really exist. Sometimes because a contractor is flying a kite just to check availability of workers. I don't think that's a particularly good thing in the first place. But yes, people do bullshit. Does an induction catch them out? My guess is probably not. So, if you've turned up with maybe a kosher card, but you're not as experienced as you claimed, or maybe your card is entirely spurious, you've got your friend to sit the test, you'll still make it through the induction. It will only be when you get behind the levers that somebody says, this guy's having a fucking laugh, and he can barely walk, let alone operate a machine. But by that time, the likes of Dan have already been refused entry at the gate because they've got somebody in for the job. It is so ridiculously stupid and so wasteful of resources. It blows my mind. I'll take you back when we did a trip down to HS2 in London, and we had to go through an induction which was about 3 hours or thereabouts. Fill in forms, had to have a drink and alcohol test, even though all I was driving was a camera, but we had to go through all of that. But the guys that were actually there for work, and there was a couple of hundred of them, this was a Monday morning, there was a couple of hundred of new starters. They were expected to be there for an entire day. They were not expected to do any work for that entire first day. They were going to come back the following day, assuming they'd passed their induction and everything else. So first and foremost, I mean, with HS2, given the way that they're spunking money down there anyway, my guess is that those guys that were there to be employed, and therefore they were being paid. I'm not sure about that, but the likelihood is they were being paid to spend a day doing nothing. They're being paid to do a job that they're not actually doing. But if they're not being paid, why would you want to work on a project like that? I always read the whole induction before I go out to site and often question over it. Yeah, quite right. I mean, there's another thing as well. You are presented with, an induction questionnaire or whatever it might be. You've had no time to prepare for that. The contractor or the employer has had plenty of time to ask these questions, but you've had no forewarning of that. Now, if you're going from house building site to house building site, where you're doing the same thing day in, day out, they're probably not particularly complex, but you could have traveled halfway across the country or from Scotland, from Gary driving down to, or taking the train down to London to do a job, to be presented with the details of an induction that prove, through no fault of your own, but prove that you are not actually the person equipped for this job. You're being asked to do a job for which you've had no training, for which you've got no experience, but you have been required to drive all the way down there or take the train all the way down there. And it's only when you get there and see the induction, it's like, well, that's not me. I do that. I don't do that. Which I say, if I had an accident, I want to know that you won't have an issue with me and I'm doing it to cover my ass. Yeah. Yeah. And again, I mean, going beyond inductions, covering your ass surely should be something that was in place even before you got in your car that morning. If you're directly employed, you have terms of employment, you have terms and conditions of employment, that your employer has a duty of care and so on down the line. But if you're an agency worker or a temporary worker, or you're just coming in for, the duration of what remains of a project, you'd like to think that they would they've got your back, wouldn't you? Dan says, I've been at 2 sites in 5 years where induction was drugs and alcohol, and seen men walk out as they know they'll fail. Yeah. I mean, that's bad. What I consider to be even worse than that, though, frankly, is where you have an employer warning their workers in advance. The drug and alcohol test people will be here on Monday. If you enjoy yourself too much this weekend, don't show up. So yes, they will get a nice tick that says they're drug and alcohol free. But then after that occupational nurse or whatever has left the site, maybe the following day, those guys that have been out on the sauce or high, off their tits over the weekend, then come back to work. So we have a piece of paper here that says this is a drug and alcohol free site. Not. Nothing like. That is the ultimate box ticking exercise. That's an employer who doesn't actually give two shits about whether they're drug or alcohol free. What they need is warm bodies on that site to get them through the test, get them, get their tick of approval. No drugs, no alcohol. Yeah, you're good to go. At which point, all of those that have been drunk or high come back to work and pretend nothing's happened. Which kind of overlooks, in quite a big way, the actual purpose of drug and alcohol testing. It's not, some may be surprised to learn, it's not to get a tick on a little piece of paper. It's not to get you through some sort of accreditation system for the developer or the tier one contractor. It is to ensure the safety of those working on the site, near the site, or around the site. So fudging it by insisting that those that you know to be drinkers or drug takers, fudging it so that they're not there on that day, you are complicit in making that site less safe. Yes, says Gary Muirhead, drugs and alcohol and induction test. Induction next if you pass. I often question managers on sites, says Dan, why you're not doing drugs and alcohol for these men who are operating machines. I'm straight up to everyone. If you're a bad operator, I'll tell you. I'll tell you up straight how to become a better operator. Gary Muirhead says, Taylor Wimpey in Scotland gives you an induction card. If you're going from one site to another, you don't have to get an induction if you have a card unless there is some site differences. Does that not make more sense? I mean, going back to the point I made about driving licenses, is that not kind of the equivalent? I've been through your induction and look, I've got the proof. I mean, I've been to sites now, and this is absolutely true. I went to a nuclear power station, which was being decommissioned and demolished, and I had to go back there several times. The first time I went there, I had to go through quite an extensive induction, maybe 2 hours or thereabouts. No drug or alcohol, but I was just driving a camera. But I had to go through maybe a 2-hour induction. Got my form filled out and everything else. Had to take my passport, driving license. Had to prove I was who I said I was, because it was a nuclear facility, highly secure and everything else. I then had to go back about a month later, and I had to go through the whole thing again. And I then went back, excuse me, I went back about 2 weeks later, and they looked at it and they went, oh, you were here like 2 weeks ago. You don't have to go through it again. Oh, fine. Okay, that's perfect. So went on. I then went back about 4 weeks later, and they said, oh, 4 weeks. No, you've got to go through induction again. Do I look like I'm suffering with Alzheimer's? Like I can retain information from an induction for 2 weeks, but God forbid I could try and retain it for 4. What a waste of bleeding. And as I say, all I was doing was walking onto the site and doing that. Chris Ford says we'll be doing the same job day in, day out for 3 years, and we still have to do a daily work permit. They won't issue a weekly one. See, I wonder about this. If this is actually some really weird job creation scheme, I don't like it, but I kind of get it. You know, if you're working for a local company and the nephew of the managing director or the nephew of the owner of the company, not the sharpest tool in the shed, but he gets to check inductions. This is a big pile of paper on his desk, and he ticks each one, make sure that, orange PPE, yes. Induction, yes. Drugs and alcohol test, yes. Non-rigger boots, yes. If the purpose of all of this is just to keep that not entirely bright individual on the payroll, all right, it's not great. And it is still an inconvenience, and it is still a waste of time and effort and resources and money. But I kind of get it. But it's not, is it? It's not. And to be honest, these inefficiencies at site and worker level are just a replication of everything that happens up above that. You know, the very fact that you have to go through a PQQ, a pre-qualification questionnaire, so before you can be even considered to take on a project, you have to pre-qualify. And in order to pre-qualify, you have to fill in a form. Now, if you're a contractor of any reasonable size, you are not only filling these in on a regular basis, you are potentially filling them in on a daily basis. You would think by now that, much the same as I said about the cards, that I have a PQQ. I filled it out not more than 3 weeks ago. I filled it out for Taylor Wimpey. I filled it out for Mace. I filled it out for Balfour Beatty. I've got one. No, we need to do a different one. What's different about it? Well, on the Balfour Beatty one, we need your VAT registration number at the top of the page. But on the Mace one, we need your VAT registration number at the bottom of the page. So you'll have to do it again. Are you shitting me right now? If anyone can explain how an industry as big, as important, as mature as this still needs bits of paper filled out in a slightly different order in order just to be considered for the job. I can understand a bit more rigor when it comes to they've been awarded the job. Now we need to make sure that they are 100% kosher, and we need them to fill out, their insurance, and we need to be absolutely sure. But just to be considered for a job? Really? And we have to do the same induction once a year. Dear Lord. Nicely designed to fit in the back of a van so you won't see it again. What was that? Was that the Rhinoceros? It may well have been. I think that may have been a lagging message there. I'm not entirely sure. But yeah. And when you think about it, you think about the industry employs somewhere between 2.5 and 3 million people. Not all of them are on site, I grant you that. But let's even say just 1 million people. And let's say the average wage in construction is, let's say, £20 an hour, for example. I'm not going to do the exact maths because I can't do it in my head. But if there's 1 million people, well, it is easy actually. If there's 1 million people losing an hour of work on inductions, unnecessary form filling, card authentication, the wrong boots, turning up for a job that no longer exists, if we're losing just 1 hour per person, that's 20 million quid that this industry just pissed up the wall today, and probably tomorrow, and probably the day after that, and the day after that. The average working person works somewhere around about 220 days per year. If that is extrapolated out, and I realise you don't do an induction daily, but you extrapolate that out, that's £4.5 billion that we're pissing up the wall that we don't need to. It is little wonder that we have 8,000 companies going to the wall in the space of 2 years for all the whenever we talk about waste in this industry, we tend to talk about rubble and steel and glass and maybe over ordering bricks and blocks and concrete and so on. How much are we wasting in man and woman? How much are we wasting in hours and days and weeks and months spent doing things that are utterly unnecessary? And yet the bizarre thing with all of this is that whenever you sit down with demolition contractors, major contractors, tier ones, sooner or later they will mention the word efficiency. Oh yes, things like we have a digital twin so that we can iron out any bugs with this design before we build it. All about efficiency. But what about all of the other waste that goes into this project? Have you considered that? Andy Thornton just arrived and in just 4 words have summed it up. Tip of the iceberg, yeah. Yeah. Imagine doing a time and motion study on not just a site, but across all of the sites in the UK. Demolition, construction, waste, quarrying, mining. The amount of time that we must lose with basically bullshit. We talk about virtually every major infrastructure project is over budget and it overruns on time. Why? Because we're spending an inordinate amount of time doing needless, unnecessary bullshit things. Not things that will move the needle of the project, not things that will edge us towards completion, not things that will make the job better, more efficient, more long-lasting, more durable, just things that create ticks on bits of paper so that somebody in an office somewhere can say, ah, yes, I have my piece of paper. And the very fact that we are now in a digital age, and yet you go to sites these days, and I still occasionally get invited to sites, and you go along and you go through an induction. It's all on pieces of paper, dog-eared pieces of paper. Is that really efficient? Anywho, people, I'm going to go and love you and leave you. I'm going to let you get back to your working days. Hopefully you'll be efficient. I'm just going to say kind of an apology. Emerald Equipment just joined us over on Instagram. You're arriving as I'm leaving, and I apologise for that. But we start at 10, just UK time. I don't know where you are, but we start at 10. Yes, I'll be back tomorrow with yet more of the same. I promise there will be no more references to fish concussion. I think that we've probably worn that one out, but look out for more spoof news coming your way because I'm not yet done. Sorry, I was delayed by my own girls and money. Well, fair play to you, sir. Fair play to you. Yes, I'll be back tomorrow with yet more of the same. If you would, I'm about to upload this video over onto YouTube. If you could find your way to liking it and sharing it, just because I quite like a few people to have a bit of a smile on their face today. Nothing more than that. I don't earn any money out of it, but if you could find your way clear to doing that, I'd be very, very grateful. I'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. for yet more of the same. And until then, I bid you all a fond adieu.